Suppose you wake up at the dawn of a late autumn morning in Detroit, not as a well-dressed tourist but as a homeless man huddled in the mouth of an abandoned subway tunnel. You're wrapped in 3 layers of stinking old coats, a cardboard mat digging into your spine, and the cold wind slicing through your cuffs like a knife. This is you at 52. A former auto plant mechanic now in your 3rd year of living on the streets. Another day of survival begins. It's 2 a.m. in Detroit and the temperature has long since plummeted below freezing. Even the city's hustle and bustle has curled up against the cold, leaving nothing but the wind howling and swirling through the subway entrance. You dare not sleep deeply. Your back presses against the cold, rough wall, and 2 stacked cardboard sheets lie beneath you. They barely block the chill seeping up from the ground but can't stop the dull ache of the cardboard edges digging into your waist. Your coats are scavenged from a charity shop. Collars, frayed cuffs unraveled at the seams. 3 layers are barely enough to fend off the wind. Every breath clouds in front of your eyes, then fades away. A dry tickle nags at your throat. You wrap your blanket tighter around your body, yet you can't contain its stench. A mix of mildew dust and faint sweat. It's a blanket you've carried with you for over half a year. Folded up and stuffed into a shopping cart by day, it unfolds into a bed by night, soaked up the smoke and despair of the streets. You jolt awake every half hour, not from the cold, but from the faint sounds drifting through the streets. It's a vigilance etched into your bones by 3 years of homelessness. When you wake, you first rub your stiff hands together. The calluses on your palms rasp against each other, and then you stamp your feet hard to bring feeling back to your numb toes. Last winter, an old man in a bridge underpass froze to the point of gangrene in his feet from huddling motionless all night. He ended up needing an amputation. It's an unspoken rule of survival on the streets. No one dares to take chances. In your pocket, you clutch a single coin. You earned it by collecting scrap yesterday. Its icy touch seeps through the thin fabric and you rub its ridges instinctively. This coin isn't wealth, but it can buy a sip of hot water or a painkiller in a pinch. It's your tiny lifeline. The wind picks up, carrying the distant clatter of a trash can being rummaged through. You lift your eyes, slightly squinting at the subway entrance's surroundings by the dim glow of a street neon sign. The walls are stained and peeling, empty plastic bottles pile in the corners, and a rain-soaked newspaper lies crumpled on the ground. You reach out and tuck the newspaper into your inner pocket. Not to read the news, but to add one more layer against the cold. An old injury in your ankle throbs faintly. You heard it 3 years ago when you were laid off and took a gig moving cargo. You couldn't afford medical care back then. You gritted your teeth and endured it, leaving a chronic ache that flares up in cold, damp weather. Like 1,000 tiny needles pricking slowly. You press your hand to your ankle and rub gently. Your rough fingers brush the swollen spot and the pain makes you frown. In a daze, half-asleep memories flash before your eyes. Not the streets or the cardboard, but the warm glow of a garage light. You're holding a wrench fixing your daughter's bicycle while your wife brings over a mug of hot milk, steam curling from its rim. "Don't work too late," she says softly. "Get some rest." The warmth feels real. You can almost smell the sweet scent of the milk. You can feel the light settling on your shoulders. But in the next second, the wind blasts through the tunnel, tearing the memory to shreds. You snap back to reality. All around you is still the dark street and the biting wind. The past is nothing but a distant, unreachable illusion. A sourness tugs at your heart. Not quite sadness, but more a quiet melancholy amid the numbness. Those stable days are long gone. The factory moved overseas, the mortgage defaulted, the marriage fell apart. They buried those days for good. Now you're alone, fighting tooth and nail to survive on the streets. Around 4 a.m., the sound of footsteps draws near, growing louder with each step. You tense up instantly, your fingers closing tighter around the coin in your pocket. Your body huddles instinctively deeper into the corner of the wall. The streets aren't safe after dark. Addicts and muggers lurk in the shadows, ready to pounce. Guarding your few belongings is the bottom line for any homeless person trying to make it through another day. As the figure approaches, you finally let out a breath of relief. It's old Joe. A 60-year-old black homeless man who's been on the streets for 5 years and knows the rules better than anyone. He's one of the few people who'll exchange more than a few words with you. In his hand, he holds a chipped stainless steel thermos. He walks up to you without a word and silently holds out the thermos. The surface carries a faint warmth. You take at your fingertips, brushing the cold metal and the warmth seeping from inside. A twinge of discomfort tugs at your heart. The pride of being a skilled mechanic once made you refuse handouts, but homelessness has worn down most of your edges. You know all too well how precious this small bit of warmth is. Old Joe's voice is rough as he tells you to drink up quickly. He leans against the wall a few feet away, hands stuffed in his pockets. The Salvation Army's spots are tight, he says. We gotta be there before 6. You nod and twist open the lid. A faint smell of coffee wafts out. Stale, burnt, clearly past its prime. It must have come from the back of a convenience store dumpster. You take small sips, the warmth spreading slowly to your stomach. It chases away the chill for a moment, only to be swallowed up by the cold wind again. You don't dare drink too fast, savoring the warmth for as long as you can. After finishing, you wipe the thermos clean and hand it back to Old Joe, murmuring a quiet thank you. Old Joe waves it off and tucks the thermos into his pocket. We're all just trying to get by, he says. Might as well look out for each other. His eyes glance down at your hand still pressed to your ankle. He warns you the temperature's dropping today. It'll be hell on your leg. Get some ibuprofen when dawn breaks, he says. Don't tough it out. You nod softly in response. Old Joe says nothing more. He leans against the wall, closing his eyes. His posture remains alert, ready for anything. You curl back up under your blanket, tucking the newspaper tighter around yourself. Your gaze falls on the graffiti scrawled on the corner of the wall. The lines are messy, the colors faded, probably done with a stolen marker, like a secret code among the homeless. It might be a safety warning or a tip about where to find food. You memorize it silently. It's just survival instinct. In the distance, the wail of a police siren cuts through the air, growing louder then fading away. Red and blue lights cast blurry shadows on the ground. You huddle deeper into your blanket, your heart tightening. Police have never been a symbol of safety for the homeless. They'll shoo you away, seize your belongings, and occasionally hand out expired food, always with a cold, detached attitude. You've seen people taken away to jail for resisting, never to be seen on the streets again. The wind dies down. The sky lightens to a pale fishbelly gray, heralding the arrival of dawn. You stand up slowly, your stiff joints creaking. The pain in your ankle flares up sharply with the movement. You carefully unfold your blanket, shaking off the dust and wrinkles, then fold the cardboard sheets and stuff them into a tattered cloth bag. These are your only possessions, your bed on the streets and your last shred of dignity. Old Joe wakes up too. He bends down to brush the dust off his clothes, urging you to hurry. Don't be late. You nod and fall in step behind Old Joe, heading toward the Salvation Army shelter. The early morning streets are empty. The pavement is damp and frosted over, slippery underfoot. Shop doors and windows on both sides are shuttered tight, their glass panes plastered with faded for rent ads or graffiti, testament to Detroit's decline. This used to be a bustling commercial street lined with factories that provided steady jobs. Now, after the collapse of the manufacturing industry, only desolation remains. More and more people lost their jobs just like you, cast aside by life, left to wander the streets of this city. You and Old Joe walk one after the other, saying nothing. Only the sound of your footsteps echoes through the empty streets. The bitter wind cuts at your cheeks, stinging like a slap. You pull your collar up high, covering most of your face, leaving only your tired, watchful eyes exposed. Memories of your stable past flash through your mind. The 20 years you spent at the auto plant, filled with a quiet sense of purpose and achievement. Back then you wore clean work clothes, holding a wrench, watching cars take shape on the assembly line. Now it feels like a lifetime ago. You reach the shelter around 5:30 a.m. A line of more than 20 people already snakes along the wall outside the gate. Most of them are homeless. Elderly men hobbling on canes, women clutching small children close to their chests. Women and kids are the most vulnerable on the streets. They line up hours early just for a single meal and a safe place to stay for a while. There are also a few young, able-bodied men in the line, their eyes sharp and restless, scanning their surroundings every now and then. You silently take your place at the end of the line, keeping a distance from the person in front of you. It's an unspoken rule of survival on the streets. You lean against the cold wall, rubbing your ankle repeatedly, trying to ease the throbbing pain that's growing worse by the minute. The line is quiet, broken only by the sound of coughing, crying, and people stamping their feet to keep warm. Every face wears the same mask of exhaustion and numbness. Their eyes stare blankly into the distance, waiting silently for the meager meal that will keep them going for another day. You look up at the shelter's closed iron gate where a faded notice lists the rules for receiving meals. It requires presenting a valid ID for registration. Each person is limited to one serving and proxy collection is prohibited. You pat the pocket next to your skin where you keep your ID. Its edges worn but carefully preserved. It's your only proof of identity. Lose it and you become a ghost to society, unable to even get a meal to survive. At 6:15 a.m. the line stirs. Two young men push their way forward, cutting in line. One with dyed yellow hair shoves an elderly man in front of him. The yellow-haired man curses loudly, yelling at the old man to move out of the way. The old man stumbles, his cane clattering to the ground, and he nearly falls. People around him step back instinctively, their eyes wary. But no one dares to intervene. No one wants to risk a fight that might get the shelter closed. There are no winners in street fights. If things escalate, the shelter might shut down and everyone here will be left with nothing. You watch the young man's arrogant smirk and the old man's fumbling to pick up his cane. A familiar sharp pang tugs at your heart. You think of your father, how he went from a proud, confident mechanic to a quiet, withdrawn, middle-aged man after losing his job. After a moment's hesitation, you step forward, walking up to the old man and bending down to pick up his cane. You hand it to him gently. The old man looks up at you, his cloudy eyes glistening with gratitude. He whispers a soft thank you. You shake your head, saying nothing. You turn around, facing the two line-cutting young men calmly, and frown, gesturing for them to go to the end of the line. The yellow-haired man's face twists with rage. He reaches out to push you, shouting angrily, demanding to know who you think you are. You dodge sideways instinctively. Eyes from all around the line lock onto the scene, and other homeless people begin to gather around, closing in slowly. They remain silent, but their stance is clear. No one is allowed to break the rules and ruin everyone's chance to eat. Seeing this, the yellow-haired man's bravado deflates. He glares at you fiercely, spitting out a string of curses, and leads his friend to the end of the line. The conflict dies down. The line returns to order, everyone taking their places again, waiting silently. You go back to your spot at the end of the line, leaning against the wall. Your heartbeat gradually slows. You never wanted to be a hero, you just wanted to protect your chance to survive. You couldn't bear to watch the old man who reminded you so much of your father being stripped of his dignity without the strength to fight back. At 7 a.m. sharp, the shelter's iron gate creaks open slowly. Two uniformed staff members walk out holding clipboards and pens. Their faces are expressionless as they gesture for the line to move forward one by one for registration and meal distribution, their movements mechanical and routine. When it's your turn, you hand over your ID. The staff member compares the information on it with their registration book. The scratch of the pen on paper fills the air. The smell of disinfectant mixed with sweat makes you feel slightly nauseous. The staff member doesn't look up as they ask for your name and how long you've been homeless, their tone flat and emotionless. Jack Wilson. 3 years. Your voice is hoarse, rough with disuse. After registering, the staff member hands your ID back to you along with a simple breakfast. It consists of a dry whole wheat bread roll, a lukewarm boiled egg, and a cup of water that tastes faintly of bleach. You eat quickly, not daring to linger. Food on the streets is hard to come by. You need to hurry and start scavenging for the day. After finishing, you find one of the staff members and hesitate for a moment before asking if there are any day labor opportunities available. You tell them you can do manual work, carrying, cleaning, anything. You're desperate for a chance to earn some money. The staff member looks you up and down, their gaze lingering on your swollen ankle. They say all the spots are filled and tell you to come back tomorrow. A wave of disappointment washes over you, but you aren't surprised. Day labor jobs are scarce and competition is fierce. These odd jobs are mostly manual labor arranged by the shelter, paying next to nothing, but they're the only hope for homeless people like you. You nod, not pressing the issue further. You turn and walk out of the shelter. The morning sun shines down, but it brings no warmth at all. The cold sunlight casts long shadows across the buildings as you walk along the street toward the public restroom. The restroom door creaks as you push it open, reeking of a pungent, foul odor. The faucet is broken, dripping cold water nonstop. You splash the cold water on your face. The icy shock jolts you awake, instantly chasing away some of your exhaustion. You wipe your face and comb your hair with a tattered towel, just trying to look a little less disheveled to avoid being chased away or glared at. Once you've cleaned up, you continue along the commercial street, your eyes scanning the trash cans by the roadside for anything valuable. Behind a convenience store, you find a rusty but sturdy shopping cart with wheels that still roll smoothly. A shopping cart is a homeless person's mobile warehouse, an indispensable tool for storing supplies and surviving on the streets. You push the cart, scavenging for scrap, bending down, reaching out, sorting through trash. The movements are so familiar they've become muscle memory. Plastic bottles, aluminum cans, cardboard boxes. Anything that can be sold for a few cents is sorted and collected carefully. Grease from the plastic bottles sticks to your hands, slimy and unpleasant, but you just wipe it off with your sleeve and keep searching. As you pass a coffee shop, the glass door suddenly swings open. A young barista pokes his head out, glancing left and right to make sure no one is watching. He quickly hands you a wrapped sandwich, whispering that it's past its sell-by date and no one wanted it. You freeze for a moment, taking it instinctively. Your fingertips brush the warmth of the wrapper, and you catch a glimpse of sympathy in the barista's eyes. You open your mouth to say something, but all that comes out is a low, gruff thank you. The barista smiles faintly, saying nothing more. He closes the glass door quickly, and the coffee shop returns to its quiet, cozy atmosphere. You tuck the sandwich carefully into your inner pocket, pressing it against your chest, trying to keep it warm for as long as possible. This small act of kindness is faint but precious, like a ray of sunlight briefly illuminating your dark, desperate life. You don't dare linger. Detroit's city inspectors are harsh on homeless people scavenging for scrap, patrolling the streets at random. If they catch you, they'll seize your shopping cart and your collected scrap, sometimes even fine you or drive you away. The risk is high. You weave through back alleys, behind shops, darting from one hiding spot to another, like a wary rat avoiding danger. When you pass pedestrians, most of them step aside, instinctively, their eyes filled with indifference, disgust, or avoidance. No one wants to stop and look at you, let alone lend a helping hand. That's just how the streets are. You're long used to these looks, from the shame and anger of the early days to the numb acceptance of now. Dignity is cheap on the streets. The only thing that matters is staying alive. You push the shopping cart forward, the pain in your ankle growing worse with every step, each one feeling like a needle pricking your skin. You grit your teeth, refusing to stop. You're running around for pennies, just trying to make it through this cold winter. By 11:30 a.m., the shopping cart is half full. You've sorted and tied up the scrap, neatly ready to sell. You glance up at the sky, deciding to head to the scrap yard. If you're late, it might close and all your hard work will be for nothing. You push the cart toward the scrap yard on the outskirts of the city. It's a long walk, crossing nearly half the city. The pain in your ankle becomes excruciating. Beads of sweat break out on your forehead, soaking the messy hair at your temples. You have to stop and rest every now and then, leaning against a wall to rub your ankle, trying to ease the unbearable pain. Along the way, you see dozens of other homeless people, some rummaging through trash for food, others huddled in corners, all struggling to survive. After more than half an hour, you reach the scrap yard. The owner is a middle-aged man in his 50s, slightly overweight. He has a sharp, unfriendly look on his face, always treating homeless scrap collectors with contempt. He glances at the scrap in your cart, barking out a low price impatiently. 5 cents per plastic bottle. 6 cents for aluminum cans, 10 cents a pound for cardboard. Significantly lower than the market rate. Your heart sinks. You know he's lowballing you, but you have no power to argue. It's the only scrap yard in Detroit that will buy from homeless people. The others either refuse outright or offer even lower prices. Arguing will only get you thrown out empty-handed. You nod silently, starting to unload the scrap from the cart, sorting it for weighing. Your movements are quiet and efficient. The owner stands by, watching you like a hawk, afraid you'll try to cheat him out of a few cents. He keeps complaining about how you're wasting his time. You ignore his grumbling, focusing on your work. Your hands get cut by the sharp edges of the scrap, oozing tiny beads of blood, but you just wipe them away casually. After weighing all the scrap, the owner tosses you $12.70, his tone still sharp and rude. You bend down to pick up the money, smoothing out the bills carefully. You divide it into 2 piles, planning how to spend and save every cent. $10 you tuck into the sole of your shoe, taped securely in place, a safe way to hide money from street thieves. The remaining $2.70 you put in your coat pocket, keeping it for daily expenses. You push the empty cart to the side, ready to leave, but the owner suddenly tosses you a few plastic bottles. "Take these," he says. "Bring more next time." Then he turns around and walks away, ignoring you. You freeze for a moment before picking up the bottles and stuffing them into the cart. You mutter a quiet thank you and leave slowly. You understand, the owner isn't just being mean. His scrap yard is barely hanging on, squeezed by environmental regulations. Those few plastic bottles are his quiet way of acknowledging you, of recognizing that you played by his rules, didn't argue, and deserved a little extra. After leaving the scrap yard, hunger and the throbbing pain in your ankle hit you at once, making it hard to stand. You push the cart to a nearby park, finding a secluded bench to sit down and rest. You take out an old newspaper from your pocket, spreading it over the dusty bench to keep your clothes clean. You pull the sandwich out of your inner pocket, carefully unwrapping it. It's already gone cold. The sandwich has wilted lettuce and a small piece of ham inside. But it's the best meal you've had all day. You take a bite, chewing slowly. The mix of flavors on your tongue eases your hunger, if only for a little while. Halfway through the sandwich, you feel a faint gaze on you. You look up instinctively. Standing by the bushes is a little girl around 6 years old. She's wearing an oversized old coat, her face smudged with dirt. She stares at the sandwich in your hand, timidly, her eyes filled with an unmistakable hunger. Behind her stands a young woman dressed in tattered clothes, her eyes tired but watchful. When the woman sees you looking at them, she quickly pulls the girl back, her face flushing with embarrassment and humility. You look into the little girl's clear, hungry eyes, and your heart softens, a wave of sadness washing over you. 6 years old, that's how old your daughter was back in the days when you had a home. Memories come flooding back, overwhelming you. Once upon a time you made sandwiches for your daughter every day, with her favorite cheese and fried eggs inside. She would cling to your legs, smiling sweetly, saying, "Daddy makes the best sandwiches in the world." The sadness in your heart is so sharp it hurts. The sandwich in your hand suddenly feels impossible to finish. After a moment's hesitation, you tear the sandwich in half, picking up one half and walking toward the little girl. The girl shrinks back behind her mother in fear, peeking out at you from behind her legs, her big eyes wide with caution. The woman tenses up too, watching you warily, her body ready to run at any moment. You hold out the sandwich to the woman, softening your voice. "I can't finish it all," you say. The woman stares at you in surprise, then relief. She hesitates for a moment before taking it, thanking you repeatedly, her voice trembling with gratitude. She hands the sandwich to the girl, urging her to eat quickly. The girl takes a small, tentative bite. Her eyes light up, instantly filled with pure, unadulterated joy. To her, this simple sandwich is the greatest happiness in the world right now. The woman mumbles an explanation. She fled her home with her daughter to escape domestic violence, and they've been homeless for a month with nowhere to go. Her voice is filled with helplessness. She has no idea what the future holds. She can only struggle to get by one day at a time. You listen silently, saying nothing. Stories like hers are far too common on the streets. Domestic violence, unemployment, illness. Any single stroke of misfortune can drag a person into the abyss. You think of your wife, how she left with your daughter after countless arguments and years of disappointment. You blame yourself for failing to give them a stable home. After a long silence, you speak up, warning her. "Don't go to the bridge underpass. There are addicts there, it's not safe for you and the kid." The woman nods, quickly thanking you again. She promises to find a new place to stay tonight, her eyes brimming with gratitude. You walk back to the bench, picking up the other half of the sandwich. You take a slow bite, chewing it carefully. You fold the sandwich wrapper neatly and tuck it into the shopping cart, ready to go back to scavenging for scrap. Before leaving, you glance back at the mother and daughter. The little girl is holding her mother's hand, bowing slightly to you in thanks. "Thank you, Uncle," she says in a small, soft voice. A warmth spreads through your chest and you nod at her gently. You push the shopping cart and leave the park. The cold wind is still blowing, but your heart feels light, warmed by that small act of kindness. You know you're barely surviving yourself, but all you could do was give half a sandwich and a warning. A tiny, insignificant gesture of goodwill. At 1 p.m., the sky darkens, suddenly clouds rolling in. The cold wind picks up carrying fine raindrops that patter down on the ground. You hurry to push the cart into the subway tunnel to take shelter. The rain quickly turns into a downpour hammering against the ground. You push the cart to the inner part of the tunnel away from the rain and cover the cardboard with a plastic sheet to keep it dry. Cardboard is your main source of income. If it gets wet and soft, it won't sell for anything. You can't afford to lose it. The wet plastic sheet clings to your hands, cold and clammy. You press down hard on the cardboard to squeeze out the water, then tie it up securely with rope. When you're done, you lean against the wall, gasping for breath. Your wet coat sticks to your skin, the chill seeping into your bones, making you shiver violently. The cold, damp weather worsens your old ankle injury. The pain is sharp and unbearable, beads of sweat rolling down your forehead, your face turning pale. You press and rub your ankle, but it only eases the pain slightly, almost useless. Other homeless people stream into the tunnel one after another to take shelter from the rain, each claiming a corner to huddle in. The atmosphere is heavy and silent. You stare at the pedestrians rushing past outside the tunnel, dressed in clean clothes, holding umbrellas, hurrying toward warm, dry places. No one spare a glance at the group of people huddled in the subway tunnel, struggling to survive in the cold rain and wind. You live in two different worlds, separated by an invisible chasm. The contrast between their lives and yours is stark and painful. A bitter feeling fills your heart. Not jealousy, but a helpless, bitter laugh at your own fate and circumstances. The heavy rain lasts for nearly 2 hours before finally tapering off. The sky remains overcast, the air cold and damp, cutting to the bone. You unwrap the plastic sheet to check the cardboard. It's slightly damp but still dry enough to sell. You let out a small sigh of relief. You fold the plastic sheet neatly and tuck it into the cart, then push it and walk out of the subway tunnel. The streets are even colder after the rain. The wet pavement glistens, reflecting the shadows of the buildings. The commercial street is still deserted. You scavenge for scrap along the street, but the pickings are slim, mostly waterlogged paper and broken plastic bottles. You head toward the residential area instead. Residents there often leave scrap by their doors, making it an important source of income. You weave through the alleys, avoiding the gaze of residents, quickly grabbing the scrap left by the doors and moving on without stopping. Most residents frown and close their doors or chase you away coldly. You're long used to this unfair treatment. No one knows you once had a stable life, a family and dreams. To them, you're just a lowly, dirty homeless man. By 3 p.m., you're completely exhausted. The pain in your ankle is so bad you can barely walk another step. You stare at the public library not far away. After a moment's hesitation, you push the cart and walk toward it. The library is one of the few places where homeless people can experience a normal life without being chased away. You lock the shopping cart in a corner outside the library, brush the dust off your clothes, and smooth your hair before walking inside. The library is quiet and warm, the air conditioning chasing away the chill, making your tense body relax for the first time all day. You go to the restroom to wash your face with cold water, then look up at your reflection in the mirror. A ragged, disheveled mess, completely out of place in the neat, tidy library. The man staring back at you is gaunt and haggard, dressed in tattered clothes. He looks nothing like the proud, confident auto plant mechanic you used to be. You're 52 years old, a homeless man living on the streets. You're no longer the man you once were. You avoid your own gaze in the mirror, walking to a secluded spot in the reading area and sitting down. You pick up an old newspaper from the table. The headlines talk about economic recovery, a world completely different from the gray, desperate one you live in. You flip to the classified section, scanning the job listings. You take even a manual labor job, but you're held back by the requirements. A permanent address, a health certificate. You have none of these. Your hope of finding a job fades again. Disappointment washes over you, but you refuse to give up. For 3 years you've looked for work every single day. You won't let yourself sink into complete despair. You still hold on to a faint glimmer of hope that one day you'll find a job, rent a small room, and get your simple, stable life back. You put the newspaper down and take out a tattered novel you scavenged from the trash. It's your only source of comfort, your only escape from reality. You lose yourself in the novel, forgetting for a moment the cold, the pain, and the constant struggle to survive on the streets. The warm light of the library falls on the pages, wrapping around you like a blanket, bringing you a long-lost sense of peace and rest. A familiar sound of footsteps stops beside you. You look up in surprise and find yourself staring at an old coworker, Tommy. You two used to be the best of partners, working overtime together, drinking beer, complaining about the boss. You lost touch after the factory moved overseas. You never thought you'd meet your old friend again. Not like this, in such a ragged, humiliating state. Tommy freezes too, staring at you, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief, then softening into a complex mix of sympathy and sadness. Tommy's voice trembles, filled with uncertainty. Jack? Is that really you? He can't believe his eyes. Your throat feels tight and you open your mouth. But you don't know how to put your ragged, desperate life into words. You can't bear to tell him about the unemployment, the defaulted mortgage, the broken marriage. All the shame and humiliation you've endured. You force the words out, your voice hoarse with shame, managing only 2 words. It's me. Tommy sits down across from you, his eyes filled with a whirlwind of emotions. He doesn't ask any questions. Tommy says he's been looking for you for 3 years. Asking every old coworker he could find, but no one knew where you were or what had happened to you. You pause, hesitating, then mumble vaguely, "Just trying to get by around here." Tommy sees through your embarrassment. He doesn't press for details. After a moment of silence, he pulls out a $20 bill from his pocket. He holds it out to you earnestly. "Take this," he says. "Buy yourself some food and medicine. It's not much, but it'll help you get through a few days." You stare at the bill, your heart torn apart. Shame, gratitude, and helplessness warring inside you. Your pride screams to refuse the handout, but the pain in your body and the desperate hunger make you unable to turn it down. Homelessness has worn down your pride, but it hasn't killed your dignity. Accepting help like this makes you feel deeply ashamed. Tommy pushes the bill toward you, his voice gentle. "We're brothers," he says. "This isn't charity." He tells you he's working 2 jobs to make ends meet, and that he's talked to the owner of a repair shop who's agreed to give you a job doing odd jobs. The job includes food and accommodation, no complicated paperwork required. He'll let you know as soon as there's news. You look into Tommy's honest, sincere eyes, and your eyes burn with tears. A warmth spreads through your chest, chasing away all the numbness and shame. This small act of friendship is like a ray of light piercing through the darkness of your despair, illuminating a path forward. You clutch the $20 bill tightly, its warmth seeping into your fingertips, spreading to your heart. Your voice chokes as you thank him. Tommy pats your shoulder, encouraging you to hang in there. "We'll both get through this," he says, firmly believing you'll both be okay. You watch Tommy's retreating back, tears of gratitude rolling down your cheeks, soaking the pages of your novel, leaving dark, wet stains. These aren't tears of sadness. They're tears of hope, of finding warmth in the midst of despair. Tommy's promise is like a seed planted in the barren soil of your heart, rekindling your desire to live. You know the road ahead will still be hard, but at least you're no longer alone. Someone is willing to reach out a hand to help you. At 5 p.m., the library's announcement system crackles to life, reminding readers that closing time is approaching. You tuck the tattered novel into your cloth bag, stand up, and walk out of the library, your heart filled with a faint, fragile hope. The chill in your bones fades and the pain in your ankle eases slightly. Your numb, empty heart is now filled with a tiny spark of anticipation. You unlock the shopping cart and push it toward the Salvation Army shelter to collect dinner. The line is short. You take your place at the end silently and soon receive a dinner that includes a vegetable salad. It's just simple lettuce and cucumber chunks, no dressing, but it tastes fresher and lighter than usual. You eat quickly, then go to a convenience store, spending 5 cents on a cup of hot water and $1 on ibuprofen. You take the pills with the hot water, the warm liquid sliding down your throat, spreading warmth to your heart. You push the shopping cart toward the bridge underpass old Joe recommended, the one that's safe with no addicts hanging around. You reach the underpass at 6 p.m. Old Joe and a few other homeless people are busy building a windbreak. The wind blows fiercely through the underpass. A flimsy structure of wooden planks and plastic sheets is the only protection they have against the biting cold wind. When Old Joe sees you arrive, he waves you over, asking you to help with the windbreak, hurrying to finish before dark. You hold a hammer, trying to nail the wooden planks in place, but your ankle is too weak, making your movements slow and clumsy. Old Joe comes over silently to help. Old Joe asks about your ankle. You mumble that you've taken medicine and the pain has eased a little. Everyone works together in silence, building the windbreak. A quiet, unspoken understanding of mutual support binding them together. This bond is the most precious thing homeless people have forged through countless cold, hard nights on the streets. This bond is the most precious thing homeless people have forged through countless cold, hard nights on the streets. Half an hour later, the windbreak is finally finished. It's flimsy, but it's enough to shield everyone from the worst of the cold wind. You spread out your blanket and cardboard, then push the shopping cart to the entrance of the windbreak, using it as a barrier to keep intruders out at night. Everyone huddles inside the windbreak to eat dinner, savoring every bite of the meager meal. It's hard-won and precious. The younger homeless people share their finds from the day. Some earned money collecting scrap, others found day labor jobs. They exchange information about survival. Every tip is a matter of life and death on the streets. Old Joe eats silently. After everyone has finished talking, he slowly begins to tell his story. He used to be an elementary school history teacher, teaching for 30 years. He had a happy family. 10 years ago, his son was shot and killed in a senseless fight. After that, he turned to alcohol, destroying everything he had. His drinking cost him his job and his family. He quit drinking eventually, but he could never get his family back. The windbreak falls silent. Everyone sits lost in thought, feeling his regret and pain as if it were their own. Old Joe's story is just one of countless tales of people falling from stability into the abyss in Detroit. You listen silently, the regret of your own past welling up inside you. Regret for all the things you've lost, all the mistakes you've made. You know there are no what-ifs. All you can do is cherish the present and hold on to the hope of a chance to start over. You don't want to talk about your own past. Those warm memories are now like a knife cutting you open every time you think about them. After dinner, everyone curls up in their own spots, gradually drifting off to sleep. The wind outside howls more fiercely, the plastic sheets of the windbreak flapping loudly in the gusts. A constant reminder of the cold, cruel world outside. At 8 p.m., the temperature drops sharply, even colder than it was in the early morning. Everyone wraps their blankets tighter around themselves, huddling together for warmth. To protect their belongings and guard against unexpected intruders, they make a pact to take turns keeping watch, 2 hours per person. You're paired with Old Joe. He'll stand watch from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. and you'll take over until midnight. Old Joe sits at the entrance of the windbreak, hands stuffed in his pockets, his eyes sharp and alert, like a predator lying in wait ready to defend his territory. You curl up under your blanket, closing your eyes, but you can't fall asleep. The faint pain in your ankle still lingers. Your mind races with thoughts. Tommy's promise, the smiles of your wife and daughter, the 3 years of ragged, desperate homelessness. You don't know if Tommy's promise will come true. You don't know if you'll ever be able to stand on your own 2 feet again. The future is full of uncertainty, but you refuse to give up. You'll keep going just for that faint glimmer of hope. At 10 p.m., it's your turn to stand watch. You get up and walk to the entrance, replacing Old Joe. He falls asleep almost instantly, his snores echoing through the windbreak. Inside the windbreak, the only sounds are the steady snores of your sleeping companions mixing with the howling of the wind outside. A lullaby for the night. You lean against the wooden plank, keeping a sharp eye on your surroundings. The streets are pitch black, the neon lights casting blurry, flickering shadows on the ground. Occasionally a car passes by, its engine roaring, breaking the silence, then fading away, leaving the streets quiet and empty once more. You clutch the coin in your pocket, tightly staying alert, not daring to let your guard down for a second, your eyes fixed on the dark streets. 2 dark figures dart out from the corner, rushing straight toward the windbreak, the smell of alcohol and drugs clinging to them like a cloud. You tense up, instantly recognizing them as addicts. You shout a warning, slapping Old Joe awake. Old Joe wakes up, instantly reacting with lightning speed. He pulls out a whistle from his pocket and blows it hard. A shrill, piercing sound cutting through the night. It's an emergency signal agreed upon by homeless people across the city. A call for mutual aid. The 2 figures charge at the windbreak entrance. One grabs for a shopping cart while the other rushes inside, trying to snatch a cloth bag from one of the sleeping men. Everyone inside the windbreak wakes up instantly. Tired as they are, they spring to their feet, rushing toward the addicts to defend themselves. A tall, burly homeless man throws a punch at one of the addicts, roaring as he drives him out of the windbreak. The addicts fight back, violently refusing to back down. In the chaos, one of them slams into your shopping cart, knocking it over. The cart crashes to the ground, its wheels bending out of shape. The neatly tied scrap spills out, trampled underfoot, ruined. You feel a surge of anger and panic. The shopping cart is your lifeline. Without it, surviving on the streets will be nearly impossible. You grit your teeth and charge at the addict who broke your cart, shoving him hard, letting out all your frustration and rage. The addict stumbles back, then lunges at you. You dodge sideways instinctively. Eyes from all around the line lock onto the scene, and other homeless people begin to gather around, closing in slowly. The others swarm in, joining forces to fight the addicts. Outnumbered, the addicts quickly lose the strength to resist. Seeing they're beaten, the addicts struggle to their feet, cursing loudly, and flee into the darkness, disappearing without a trace. The fight is over. Inside the windbreak, only the sound of heavy breathing can be heard. The wind continues to howl outside, unrelenting. You lift the bent, broken shopping cart off the ground. The scrap is crushed and soaked, most of it ruined beyond repair, unsellable. You stare at your damaged belongings, feeling a wave of helplessness wash over you. This kind of thing is just part of daily life on the streets. Common, unavoidable, and devastating. You have no way to seek revenge, no way to make things right. All you can do is accept it silently and hope to start over again tomorrow. As the others clean up their scattered belongings, they comfort you, saying they'll help you find a new sturdy shopping cart at the construction site tomorrow. You nod, thanking them. A faint warmth spreads through your heart. This mutual support, this bond forged in hardship, is a light in the darkness. On the streets, everyone relies on each other. Only by looking out for one another can you survive one more day. At midnight, your watch ends. You push the broken shopping cart into the windbreak, gathering up the remaining usable scrap. You walk to the edge of the underpass, staring at the distant city lights, warm and bright but completely out of reach. Behind every glowing window is a warm family, a stable home, the kind of life you've been dreaming of but can't seem to have. You pull out the $20 bill Tommy gave you, then reach into your shoe, taking out the $10 you hid there. You hold the $30 in your palm. $30. It's your lifeline, your tiny fragile hope of starting over. You plan your tomorrow. Find a new shopping cart, buy more ibuprofen, and save every other cent you can. You wait anxiously for Tommy's news, ready to work harder than ever for that odd job at the repair shop. Ready to leave the streets behind for good. The night wind cuts to the bone, but you can't sleep. Memories flash through your mind. Bits and pieces of your life, sweet and bitter, woven together into a messy tapestry. You know tomorrow will be just as hard, just as desperate. But those small acts of kindness, that tiny spark of hope, keep you from sinking into complete despair. By 1 a.m., exhaustion finally overwhelms you. You crawl back into the windbreak, curling up under your blanket, and fall into a deep, dreamless sleep. In your dreams, you're back in the garage fixing a car. Your wife and daughter are by your side, and the sunlight is warm and bright. Peaceful, happy, perfect. It's a sweet dream, but a distant one. When you wake up, reality will still be cold and cruel. You wake up before dawn, rubbing your stiff hands together, steeling yourself for another day of cold, hard reality on the streets. You pack your belongings into your cloth bag, leaving the broken shopping cart in the underpass. You'll deal with it tomorrow. You step out of the windbreak, staring at the pale, fish-belly gray sky. Your heart is calm but filled with quiet determination. A new day has arrived. All you can do is keep running, keep fighting. Do whatever it takes to survive, to keep going. The faint glimmers of kindness and the spark of hope sustain you as you walk forward into the unknown, braving the cold wind. The wind is still bitter and sharp, but there's a warmth in your heart, a quiet, steadfast hope waiting for the chance to be reborn.